Hey, welcome to Roll for Crit. We are here today talking to Tim Fowers and Jeff Beck of Hardback, the new game that is currently on Kickstarter. So you guys want to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about just who you are in general and in the world of game design, what you're doing right now?
All right. Yeah, Tim Fowers. I made Paperback and Burgle Bros and Fugitive. And now I'm working on with Jeff Beck here on Hardback.
Hardback.
Is that actual size? Is that the box?
Box right here.
Yeah.
The cards fit in. They're giant as well. So
excellent.
That's good. That's good.
And I started at the end of last year, and this is my second game on Kickstarter.
So Hardback is the game that you're here to talk about right now. So why don't you tell us about exactly what that is, how it was developed, and anything else that people should know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it actually came out of the partnership. I've been kicking around an expansion for Paperback. Paperback, is a Scrabble deck builder I made back in 2013, and is done really well. It keeps selling, and people are kind of like, well, where's the expansion for it? And I'm like, oh, I want to make new things, and I keep making new games, and people are like, well, we want more of that. So I went to Jeff here. He had I'd kind of helped him with his campaign on word domination and gave him some advice there, and I'm like, hey, do you want to help me with this? Like, I've got this, and so I gave him a list of expansion ideas, and then he threw them all out.
Yeah, he's like, here's all these things we can do. I'm like, yeah, those are all terrible. Let's move on. And so we're not making an expansion, instead making a whole new game. So Hardback plays very, it's still a deck builder, it's still a word game, but other than that, it plays very differently than Paperback. But everyone that's tried it, has really enjoyed it. In fact, a lot of people would say it, it's kind of the next level of the Hardback Paperback.
I know we were big fans.
Yeah, it was actually one of the, like I've said, the first Kickstarter is actually backed for a Christmas present for you.
That's right. Yeah. I didn't quite get it for Christmas, but it was okay.
It was my first time going to Kickstarter. I wasn't sure how it worked yet. Right. But I mean, we've always enjoyed it. It's actually one of our more played games, comparatively speaking.
It's easy to introduce to new people, family members, that kind of a thing. Do you see Hardback, you're talking about expansions, do you see this as sort of a replacement for Paperback, or is it like, can they both kind of stand side by side?
Well, initially I was pushing like, well, how can it be an expansion? And we were trying to make them still work together. And there might be some crazy mode in which you could play. It's not recommended, but it's almost like Scrabble and Boggle, right? Paperback is a little more accessible, but it's a little more constrained in its word building, like Scrabble is. Like Scrabble, you've got what's on the board, and you have to work around those and what's in your tray. But when you pull it off, you're really smart. And Hardback has a lot more gaminess going on with the deck building and synergies and whatnot. But it's also more boggly in the sense that you're like, but what's going to help me right now in this game? And you think kind of more, you're thinking more around the table when you're playing Boggle. Whereas as Paperback was more of an individual puzzle, just like Scrabble is often more of an individual puzzle. I don't know. I mean, but there's a lot of other differences in the game. I'm just trying to think of a high aesthetic level for the differences.
Yeah, I'd say overall, Paperback is a great introduction game. Like you're saying, if someone maybe hasn't played a lot of games, maybe they have played Scrabble and that's about it. Paperback is a fantastic gateway game for them. And we see Hardback as a more of I've played several games, I want something that has a little more meat to it. Hardback, it kind of scratches that itch. There's different strategies. One key component of the game is there's 4 different genres. They each have their own strategy. So there's lots of different strategies to explore and see, how does this one work and how does it compare to that one?
Yeah. Or if I do 2 colors, how are they going to,
kind of synergize together?
Yeah.
And definitely, it's always fun in deck building game when you can do more of not just build for resources, but for a theme. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, you can just get power, but if you have a weird, able to go the sci-fi theme or whatever your deck building game's about, it sort of is a lot more fun to try to build your deck more with a specific engine,
personalized a little bit.
We even found the user stories of we designed the different genres around kind of different play styles, so people can immediately have a handhold. If I'm a bad speller, but I'm a good deck builder, I might go for a horror, or I might make certain choices based on that. So we tried to play to those, and then if I'm just a great wordsmith, I want a ton of letters to work with. you know, there's ways I can, you know, I'm gonna you know, probably go with like a mystery. So.
Well, they just got both of us, the wordsmith and the horrible speller.
We're all here in one complete package. I know in Paperback there was it was an optional thing, right, with the genre words that you could make. Was that sort of born out of that idea a little bit?
It's the same thematic use, but it's actually a different. This is more just like card synergies, which has become the de facto in like your Star Realms and your Ascension and whatnot. So we just found that was. We tried to theme the powers of that genre to kind of fit in that world of like mystery or adventure or whatever.
You mentioned Scrabble and Boggle. I was wondering what it's like designing a word game versus other kind of traditional tabletop games. What kind of a headspace that is, and how you differentiate that from, because everybody knows Scrabble. It's so just everywhere. How do you make yourself stand out from that a little bit?
Well, it's the Scrabble is it gets to the core of deck building, right? It's just like I have to be aware because people are used to the idea of a Scrabble bag. Now that they can see that I'm buying a letter, it's going in my Scrabble bag, and when your grandma pulls the first letter that she's purchased, and she's like, "Oh, that's in my hand now," and then like 2 letters come out, and they're together, like, "Oh," and they have to start to think about like deck awareness and all this stuff that comes. That's actually kind of in Scrabble, and knowing what the odds of certain letters coming out of the bag are. The metaphor there is really clean for people to as a foothold as their first deck building experience.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that any game is really going to hang its hat on the decisions you make. How interesting are those decisions? What is the give and take? And with a word game, I'd say a really bad word game, the only decision you make is, what word can I spell with these letters? Like if that's the only decision you're making, it's not going to be a very fun game. And so what we try to do with Hardback or with other games we designed that are in this space is we try and give you interesting decisions above and beyond just what can you spell. So it's not just a test of your vocabulary. It really is some how does this mechanic deal with in this scenario? And then the letters really just kind of become the constraint of what decisions you have available to you at that time.
Yeah, I mean, Paperback, we might have said is the simpler one compared to this, but we did have that. I know plenty of times we were playing, it wasn't just, oh, I just need to make this word. It was more like, okay, if I do this, I can combo with this card, and then I can make you discard something. And, then, which is even more exciting with this, as you guys said, there's going to be the genres now, so I can actually build like, all right, because I'm using a horror-themed deck, this will allow this, I'm going to do more of a drawing mechanic maybe or something, like, which will be a lot more exciting, as we said, to bring the next step in.
Yeah, I had never really thought about, but the deck, as a Scrabble bag is kind of, it is kind of a similar mind state. That's kind of
big,
neat.
Random unknown.
yeah. So, and there's also an ink system in this game. Talk a little bit about that and how that changes things.
Yeah, so we were actually fairly, the game was cooking. We were having really good play tests. But Tim mentioned to me, hey, what kind of mechanic can we have for if a player's a little bit behind? If they want to press their luck to catch up, what kind of mechanic could we build for that? And so we came up with this idea of, and it really makes sense in a word game and really no other type of game, because so it's a mechanic where you can press your luck and draw an extra card, but now you're forced to use that card. And why that makes sense, if you're playing Ascension, every card is good, right? You're never going to draw a card and you're like, oh, dang, I wish I didn't draw that card. But in a word game, if you draw a letter and now you have to use that letter, if you draw 2 or 3 or even 4 of them, now what the word you can spell is really constrained down to these letters. And so that's what the ink does. It's in fact the only way in the game to draw extra cards is to press your luck and be forced to use that letter. So it adds this kind of fun mechanic of like, how far do you go? And everyone's on the table chanting like, draw some more, press your luck, and it's pretty fun.
It's a genie, right? It's like, careful what you wish for.
Right.
Oh, you want for cards? Well,
there's always going to be that fear of that Q in your deck, and you don't have the U yet.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that because in Paperback, there were, the cards, some cards would let you draw extra cards in your next turn or whatever, but it seems a little cleaner to have it as a separate mechanic.
Well, I think the two things is, first of all, if you've played a lot of deck building games, at least from my experience, drawing is usually king.
Always.
Right.
Like it tends to, and by doing this, so it's sort of, it actually has a double edge, but everyone has access to it. It's a big deal. I've had like one deck building game I remember. There's actually only one card that does drawing, so sort of like if you got that, you're gonna win.
Right.
So this makes it a lot, as you said, much easier for if you're behind.
More even-handed. Yeah, that's nice.
And another thing I was thinking about that this game does a little better when comparing to Scrabble. I don't. We brought this up, I believe, in our show, but Scrabble actually has an issue because it was made so long ago. Its point system value doesn't make sense now. Like the letter distribution isn't right. Like we use, I think, Z more now and things like that.
Huh.
So they need to redistribute the points. But this, because it's not just make a word and make points. It's as you said, the game mechanics. It has I feel like a much better life shelf as our lexicon changes and moves forward. As long as we don't use emojis, then we might have some problems.
Punctuation.
One of the things that always kind of seems like a drag to me in games like Scrabble is the whole system of challenging each other. And in Paperback, you could do that, but when we played it, it was much more casual. We would kind of just be like, oh, we don't know that word, or you can look that up if you need to. What is your guys' thoughts on that? Do you have that built in more to the mechanics, or how do you personally enjoy that?
I found it more of an artifact of Scrabble culture, right? It's kind of the Scrabble people that really care about that. And there's also a byproduct of when I first brought Paperback, like first tests, immediately people would like gather around someone's hand and be like, oh, we can solve this, right? And so that whole bounty system and the cooperative mode really played to a more kind of inclusive gameplay around words instead of like this really like standoffish, like I have my letters and I'm gonna execute this perfect word. It really bringing people in and feeling like, okay, I'm competing with you, but I'd still love to see you have a really cool word, you know, and maybe not being as quite dominant about or aggressive about the gameplay.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple of those moments, if I recall, like when someone might be misspelled and be like, no, that's wrong, but you have this, like.
Oh yeah, we're usually always, it's sort of a cooperative, semi-co-op experience.
I'm gonna beat you, but you have to do well at it.
Yeah, it's in the bones of the game. Like it just ends up playing out that way, and people kind of interpret in different ways. Maybe it's the way it generates puzzles. I don't know, but I try to encourage that.
And this is on Kickstarter, and Tim, I think all your games have been through Kickstarter, correct?
Yeah. I've got this whole thing where I kickstart my games, and I mostly just sell directly to people. Like that's kind of how I've been running my business.
Yeah, so I was just wondering because Kickstarter is the thing now, pretty much in board games. Is that like I guess your experience has been good with it? I don't know, or if you have any kind of stories about it.
It's like I give a lot of people advice on it, and I'm just like, you're instantly famous for something you haven't done yet, right? And you got to manage those expectations, right? So there's two moments. There's like, you know, even a failed Kickstarter in this, if you see it as like an entrepreneur, like the fact that I can go and bring an idea to a bunch of people and see if they like it, and they can immediately give me money to go make the thing, like it's amazing. And even if I fail, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's not something that people wanted. So testing the market and see if like this is what people want right now is the first step, and then executing really, really well and like delivering it to them and then having a good experience is the other part of it. So like Fugitive, you just showed up at people's houses and whatnot, and like I was really nervous because like I'm like I know you guys like the idea of it, but are you really gonna like the game? And so far people are liking the game, but I'm always nervous, right? Everyone, because I'm trying to like break into some different design areas. I feel some risk there, but it's okay. It's working out. I'm sure I'll have it done at some point, but so far people like what I've been making, and I'm gonna keep doing it. So.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, people keep asking you about Paperback. I mean, obviously you can see that was a big hit. And I'm curious if you've ever thought, I mean, how many times you've even seen failed, but I've seen a lot of times it's not even failed because people didn't want it, but maybe it's like, maybe if you could change this in it, and then that way you can take it back and then put it right back out. Mm-hmm. And before you dropped all the money to manufacture it and everyone says, this is not what we want.
There's dark days, man. Before Kickstarter, there are garages full of games games full of disappointment.
Oh, I believe there still are. I think we've played our share or some.
Yeah, so it's really a magic bullet for this industry. I was hesitant, right? I could have gone with Walkstar at the beginning. I could have gone with Kickstarter, but it was still early days. I wasn't sure what I wanted out of this as a business, and so I went with the publisher, with Walkstar, and went through all this drama between Mayfair, Z-Man, Game Salute. I'm done with publishers. Like I'm done, and I'm really trying to encourage everyone to use Kickstarter and to go directly to people, and hopefully as a group we can actually train like the market to just be like, if you like a creator, you just support him and you just go to his website and you buy his stuff, and it's the internet. It's not that hard to get his stuff, right? And I'm just kind of waiting, it's like I'm not trying to do a big push. I don't advertise a lot. I just kind of doing the long play. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to try to make quality stuff that'll be around for years. And that was my bet with Paperback. Paperback was the first time I did that. And I was like, if I'm going to reach like the Scrabble moms of the world, the two ways to get to them are either word of mouth or like Target, Walmart, be everywhere. And I went with the word of mouth, and because I saw with Walkstar over time, it just kind of grew organically. But people don't often wait. They expect immediate virality of their game. But board games are viral by nature. Like they're going to spread on their own because people have to play them with somebody. And so that's why I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make a classic. And I'm just going to wait and let it percolate. And I'm on the 5th print run of Paperback now. It's done really, really well. So
some games you can play alone, but does Hardback, are there multiple modes and things like that? Because I know Paperback had a co-op and a solo included. What kind of stuff like that is in Hardback?
Yeah.
So we're working. Actually, we're getting close to the stretch goal that will add the co-op mode into Hardback. We're looking at a few other variants we're going to add into the game. So lots of different styles for different types of players or different setups. Like if you want to play by yourself, or if you want to play and not have it be so competitive, different things like that.
Yeah.
I always like to hear what kind of games you guys are playing like right now, or if you just want to speak in general, some of your favorite games of all time, or games that especially maybe influenced you in Hardback or anything else.
Right now, just like for being super clever is Captain Sonar. Like, how clever is that game?
Yeah, no, we love that game.
Yeah.
It's so good, and so minimal, like whiteboards, right? Like it's genius. I love it.
And my house, we just barely we backed a game called 5 Minute Dungeon. I don't know if you saw that one on Kickstarter last year. So that just arrived. It is a riot. It's really funny. My kids just adore it. Every card has a funny little quirky thing about dungeon crawls, and so it's just fun, quick game. So it's good times.
Do you use your family as test subjects for games?
Yeah, and not just test subjects, but in fact, specifically my oldest daughter, who's just turned 16. She hand drew all the initial prototypes for Hardback. So every single card is
wow.
So
yeah, he gave her a spreadsheet, and
yeah, that's right. Like, here, go make these. Come back in an hour.
I wouldn't let that probably work on me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Once again, congratulations, Hardback. Like we said, we can't wait for it because we loved Paperback, even if I can't spell.
Yeah.
And once again, like you said, it's always interesting to hear what other people are playing in games and just to see how we view games from everyone's different perspective, whether it's a designer, the show host, or just a regular person. It's always fun to see.
The little people.
The wee people.
Yeah. Anything else about Hardback specifically that you feel like the world should know?
A lot of this comes from, we're not really word gamers either. Like, this was built because I didn't like Scrabble as a kid. I'm not a big fan. So I'm coming in as an outsider and saying like, okay, what would it take for me to really engage with the word game? So we're hoping that resonates with people, and we're really excited about it.
And where else can people find you guys? Anything else that you want to plug? Obviously, the Hardback Kickstarter is up right now, but anywhere else people can follow you or find you guys?
On the Google Play Store right now, it's being featured right now. I have a game called Turning, which is a little chain reaction puzzle game. and it's free. You can check it out. And then Fowers.net has like some of my old experiments, has links to different digital projects and analog projects I've done.
We're going to try to get this up as soon as possible so people can check it out and back Hardback. Which, look, it's built into the title.
Right,
That's
and
so convenient.
I mean, as they said, they're already coming on their first.
You should be a hardbacker.
Exactly.
There you go.
We're fans. If you're watching,
yeah.
you should definitely give it a shot, back it. I mean, your record speaks for itself, I think. You've had a bunch of games that have been hits, so that's awesome. So check all that out, and thank you guys for joining us. It's been
fantastic.
Again, check out the link to Hardback in our description below, and you can also subscribe to our channel. Check out rollforcrit.com for more videos and stuff like this that we have done as well.
Yes. Until then, I'm Mo Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this has been Roll for Crit.